Welcome to Connect to Florida. All right, I want to give you an update first and foremost on the storm. So I'm going to pop a little bit of a video right here so you can see what was going on yesterday on Fort Myers Beach. So many of us have been very concerned about Fort Myers Beach because based upon 2 years ago, Hurricane Ian, it devastated Fort Myers Beach. And they've been taking the last couple of years to just kind of start to rebuild, just to get sewers in and get electricity going. And most of the island, I would say it's about 50-50 right now. Some of the island has electricity, some of it still does not. There's still a lot of buildings that are uninhabitable. Margaritaville is up and running, and that's what I'm going to be showing you here. Let's go ahead. I'm going to pop a picture here of you of some video. This video is taken out the window of Margaritaville. This was sent to me by someone, and you can see, look at this. This is absolutely reminiscent of what Hurricane Ian looked like when it was flooding. I mean, just kind of going through this and looking at this, it really kind of gives you a little bit of a PTSD vibe. That was horrifying. So you can see the streets are flooding horribly. I mean, flooding is an understatement of what's going on here. Completely impassable. So not only are you worried that the water is going to continue to rise, or you're going to have that same storm surge scenario with people literally drowning in their homes. I mean, my gosh. So that is a real thing when you don't get off the island and you don't understand how severe this can be. So you can see how bad that water situation was just yesterday. On top of that, you're trapped. I mean, nobody's coming to help you. If you get, let's say you're older and something goes wrong and you panic, you have a heart attack, nobody can come help you. Those streets are impassable until that water goes down. So that's just an example of what was going on yesterday. Now the good news, I wanted to definitely update you on this because I know a lot of you have homes on Fort Myers Beach, or maybe you are interested in the area and maybe you're thinking, how bad could it really be? That's how bad it could really be. So I wanted to let you know that as of this morning, the water has drawn back. The water is mostly off the streets. There's still puddling, things like that. There's still a couple spots that are impassable, but it looks nothing like what it looked like yesterday. So that's a good sign that the sewers are working. There is still drainage going on, but there's lots of sand on the road. There's still problems. And the worst part of it is that all the work that's been done over the past 2 years is now in many spots undone. So all of that has to be now reconstructed again. That's the problem with buying in a floodplain. So, wind is one thing. Wind isn't fun either. But flood zone water destroys things. And that's why when people say, well, you know what, I'm not worried about it, I'll buy in a flood zone. Listen, that's what it could be. And I would go so far as to say, not only should you really seriously think about not buying in a flood zone, I would not even buy close to a flood zone, because if everything around you is underwater and you're barely on an island, first of all, that's a problem, because what are you going to do at that point? Nobody still can get to you, and you can't get out, and you're going to lose electric, everything else. But on top of that, if you are the one home on an island, then you know that eventually you're going to get deemed floodplain as well. So take better control of it, and I would just say do not. All right, so that was your Tropical Storm Debbie update. That wasn't even a hurricane, believe it or not, just a tropical storm. So that was your update for that. But the purpose of today's video is I wanted to talk to you about some real numbers. So I hear from folks all day long. I do consultations. If you didn't know that, I will leave a link right here for you. So if you need a little bit more personalized one-on-one, if you want to talk through your ideas, if you're thinking about retiring to Florida, but you don't know where, you don't even know how to go about it, and you want to get sort of on the right track, I do offer consultations. We'll meet together for about an hour, talk through all of it, and we'll get you on the right path. So if you're interested, the information is down below, and you just click the link and set some time up with me on my calendar. So I do offer that, and in those, I do those all week long, and a lot of people want to talk through numbers in terms of retirement. So that's what kind of got me thinking about today's video, and I want to talk through some things with you. So we're going to talk today. I have some notes, and I have to talk off my notes because I want to get these exact numbers right. So many people save for most of their life to retire to Florida. And here we are in 2024, and so many people are saying, you know what? I don't think I can do it. I really don't think I can do it. This is why. So today we're going to be talking about median income for folks that have retired that are over 65 and not working at all. We're also going to talk about folks who have retired over 65 and they're going to work a part-time job of some sort or add to their income in some kind of way doing something. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then we're going to talk about the top 10% and the top 1% of people that are over 65 that have retired and are not working. So we're going to talk through that, and also based upon what the costs look like in the bigger cities in Florida. So let's just jump into that. Like I said, I'm going to talk from my notes here. So this information comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the dates, because it takes a little while to gather this data, this is from 2022. So I would even say that these numbers are probably a little bit better than what they are now. I would say expenses are probably higher than what they're showing here in 2022 because of what's happened with inflation. So this is people that are 65 plus that have retired. Now the first group, this is the median number. So you can compare yourself to this. This is the median for folks who have retired 65 plus, and they are either not working or one husband or wife, one or the other or both, is working some kind of supplemental income job. Maybe they're working at the grocery store or something along those lines. Maybe they're a florist. Simple part-time job just for a little bit of extra money. So the median income for those two people is right under $50,000 a year. Right under $50,000. 65 plus, retired. So the average, it's about $4,189 per household of two. Now remember, that is people who are working part-time or not working, or one or the other. All right? So here's where it gets interesting. The average outbound bills for that same couple, remember that same couple that's making $50,000 a year, is $53,781. So we definitely have a bit of a delta there, don't we? Bit of a gap. So in other words, their income is not enough to cover their outbound, and that's in 2022. So can you imagine in 2024? There's no extra money. Now, the second one we're going to talk about is that same couple, 65 plus, they retired, but nobody's working. There is no additional supplemental income. For those folks, the median income is about $46,000, right about $46,000 per two people. Now I'm saying per two people because you can cut this right in half. It's about $23,000 per person. So that's basically your Social Security income. So just to break those numbers down even further for you, for those of you that are numbers people like I am, and hopefully this is all pretty clear, but for most people, the Social Security income is a little over $1,800 per person. So as high as it looks like $1,900, right in that range. So again, that's if you retire at 65. So if you retire younger than that, that number is going to go down. So let's say you retire at 62, that number is probably going to be about $400 less. So if you're somebody that's like, you know what, I want to retire younger. And why would you want to retire younger? Well, the reason is if you take money aside, you might want to retire younger because let's say that statistically in your family, there is not the advantage of long life. Let's say you've dealt with things that maybe you've had a knee replacement, maybe you've had double knee replacement, maybe you have hip problems, maybe you've dealt with other problems along the way, or maybe your wife has or your husband has, and you're like, you know what? I just want a good 10. I just want 10 good years. My dad passed away when he was 79. He got out of the blue. He got glioblastoma, which I can't even. And it was 1 month between surgery and him moving on. So when you get hit with something like that, when somebody you love that happens to, or somebody that that happened to, it kind of changes the way that you look at life. And you might say, you know what? My dad, my personal dad, the one I'm talking about, he used to say, I just want 10 good years. That's all I want. When he turned about 70, he said, I just want 10 good years. And he almost got it. But you start to have that mentality. And like I said, if there's not long life in your family, you might say, I'm 65. And I feel like I've got a good 5 years of strong, great health. And I feel like if I move to Florida and I move somewhere where it's warm and I'm active and I'm happy and my joints don't hurt and I can go fishing, I can go boating, I can play pickleball, I feel like I'm going to extend my life. And you know what? You have a point. And that's why these numbers make so much sense and why I always say I like to get you prepared for things. But I have to tell you what is reality. So that said, that's what the numbers look like. Now, if you're in the top 10%, the median for the top 10% of folks who have retired over 65, the average is $200,000 a year as a couple. So that's what the top 10% are bringing to the table. And then the top 1% are a little bit over $1 million. So that kind of gives you a gauge of where you can kind of say where you are if you're thinking about retirement or you're thinking about coming up on your retirement. Then these are the numbers and what they look like. Now let me tell you where we hit a problem in Florida. Now these are numbers as of 2024 because we just got our 6-month numbers into 2024. Average home sale in Naples is $595,000. So if you're making $50,000 a year, can you afford a house that's $595,000? The answer is no. Orlando, $407,000. Miami, $554,000. The Villages. So the Villages, if you're unfamiliar, is a 55 plus huge community. Lots of activities. A lot of people love the Villages. A lot of people feel some kind of way about the Villages, good or bad, they feel some kind of way. So can you guess what the average sale price is? $379,000. So maybe that is one of the big reasons that people go to the Villages. Is your house smaller? Yeah. Do you care? Maybe no. Because you're out, you're active, you're in Florida, you don't have to deal with hurricanes as much. You'll be affected, but not like if you were on the coast. So, but that is the problem. Now, I would say that if you fall in that median of $50,000 and you're living in the Villages and you decide that you want to be a hostess at the restaurant, or maybe you're really active and you could be a tennis instructor, or maybe you could work at one of the clubs, there's something that you can do and you supplement that $50,000 income, could you afford a house at $379,000? I would say very possibly yes. Now, you might be
thinking, well, guess what, Barrett? You just ruined my life.
Because you just told me that I can't do this and I always thought I could. Now, let me solve this for you. Do you have something to sell in Michigan? Do you have something to sell in Ohio? Do you have something to sell where you're coming from? Because if you do, that's going to be money that goes into the pot. You know what I mean? So if you're in your 50s right now and you really think that you want to move to Florida, please get prepared, because there's things you can be doing right now that will sort of pay you back in a way that, what do they call it? A reverse mortgage, which I'm not a massive fan of. I don't hate it. There's good and bad, but kind of that same way. Take your money and have your money make you money. So if you can start doing that, that will help. And that not with a reverse mortgage. I'm just using that as an example to pay yourself some money. Invest the money somewhere safe that will pay you. Maybe use an annuity or something along those lines. But you can get prepared to do that. Pay down as much as you can. Pay your bills down. Pay anything. So I always tell people, like a lot of times people will say to me, should I take out a home equity line? And basically, if you have credit card debt, let's say you could take a home equity line out at 6%. I'm just making it up, which you can't right now, but let's say we get to that. So if you could take a home equity line out, a HELOC out at 6%, and you have 2 cars with payments, the interest rate is 8%, and then you have credit card debt at 9%, then it makes sense to take the money from your house, pay those higher interest rate debts off, and then work towards paying down that mortgage. Now, you may be pretty well debt free. You've paid off your cars, you've paid off your credit cards, and all you really have is your house. Well, if your house is in equity, don't forget that if you buy a house, let's say you buy a house in Orlando, let's say the average is $407,000, let's say you spend $400,000, don't forget, you're going to sell the house that you own right now, and you're going to pay down your debt, so you go to Florida with essentially no bills, and then you're probably going to put a down payment down of at least $100,000. Try to put at least 20% down. So you have to look at it that these numbers that I'm giving you, it just kind of shows you how important that Social Security income that you earned is. Is it enough? Probably not. But if you play your cards right as you walk up towards retirement, you might be able to just skate right in.